Welcome to Romera Records Virtual Cast. Today we have on Missi Bantner. How's it going?
Really good. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks.
I matched with you on Podmatch. That's a pretty cool site. I've had some great podcasts through there. And has everything been good on there for you? Is this your first? I've been a lot of people's first.
You're my second.
Second.
I did my first. I know, first podcast was actually last summer.
Last
Super
summer.
fun. Yeah, last summer, and
Oh
then took
man.
kind of a little hiatus and got back on and have been connecting with people. And yeah, I snatched it up the opportunity really quickly to connect with you. So yeah,
Awesome.
so thanks for having me on. I agree, it's a really great site, really easy way to connect with people and get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for what we're going to talk about with you, I think it's something that you could use Podmatch as a tool to gain
Mhm.
information about what other people do, and it's so
Mhm.
easy to just I guess just catch up with what's going on in your industry by seeing other people who are doing it. But
Yeah.
you do, I guess, like some fitness coaching and then also nutrition. Uh,
Yeah,
some mental health type stuff. So I guess let you elaborate
yeah.
on everything that you do.
Okay, well, yeah, so my name is Missi Bantner. I'm a fitness nutrition therapist. I'm also a neural reeducation and integration specialist, and that's a mouthful. So I can explain both of those. They're slightly different, but ultimately, what I do is help people to become the expert of their own life in whatever area it is they need it. And usually, food, fitness, and brain health are my avenues in to that total life transformation. My company is called Whole Life Health, and that's the ultimate goal: is that you create whole life health in every area. So I have been in the industry for about 20 years. I started out as a personal trainer and had a personal rock bottom story that deepened my work in the world, and got my master's in nutrition therapy. And that really opened up a whole another realm of love for the human body and what's possible, the healing that's possible. And then that kind of had this ripple effect out into how I showed up in the world, and really made me want to do deeper, better work with people. And I still love the physical aspect. The human body is fantastic. But now I marry it with that mental, emotional, spiritual piece. And then about 4 years ago, I started in a program called Z Health. Um, and it is a neural lens on all things biomechanical. So pain, performance, activities of daily living, professional athletics, all kinds of stuff. So we take a neural lens to re-educate the body, move it really well, and then integrate those sort of baby steps back into activities of daily living, like I said, or athletics or professional level things, and have helped a lot of people get out of chronic pain. One of the coolest things is I've helped a lot of people improve their vision, which people think must tank at the age of 40, but it's not. It's pretty dynamic. So that's a quick snapshot of what I do. Fitness and nutrition wise, the therapy piece that I talked about expanding on, I really try to help people heal their relationship with themselves by helping them heal their relationship with food and fitness. So there's a lot of us that have gone through so many diets and fitness fads and almost end up feeling broken or like something's wrong with us. And it's not. We've lost the language of our bodies. And so I kind of teach self fluency, um, so that, like I said, so they can become the expert of their own health, life, fitness, whatever it is they're looking for.
See that last part, what you just said, is I find hilarious because we're all humans and we all eat and we all move,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we're not all experts. Like we should all be experts at our own bodies, but we're not. We need other people to study that stuff and then tell us what we
Philosophy.
should be doing. And
Yes.
it's even simple stuff like as you said, you're taking baby steps to from the everyday person to a professional athlete. There's stuff like
Mm-hmm.
walking. Like some people just don't walk right. Some people step wrong.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I guess could you elaborate some more on some of those things that you help people do to, I guess, get that mind body connection with the simple things that they do every single day?
Absolutely. Uh, let's start with nutrition because that's the easiest. What I think is sad and funny is we know more about how our cell phones work than about how our own bodies work. So the very first thing that I do with clients is I give them a tool called the hunger scale. And it's just a 10-point scale that has very specific directives on it. And they rate their physical hunger, their physical sensations. And it's really interesting how many clients don't know what they're feeling. They don't know what it feels like to be genuinely hungry. They don't know the difference between satisfaction and the various gradations of fullness. You know, you can be a couple of bites too full, or you can be like Thanksgiving too full. And there's like a whole bunch of extra like stopping points in between there as well. So it's a really cool tool. And then getting hungry, right? There's a whole process of getting hungry before you actually need to eat. And that's a whole journey in and of itself of being okay with getting and feeling hungry and waiting until the appropriate time when you know it's time to eat. And then also honoring, like, don't go beyond that. Don't get hangry,
Mm.
right? So that's the very first place I start on a nutrition and fitness sort of re-education place. Through the neural lens, it really depends on what the client's coming in for, but you talked about walking. Gait assessment is one of the primary tools that I use to understand how someone's brain is perceiving the world and maybe protecting them through their gait. So some of the first things I might look at are ankle movements, right? Teaching them how to move their ankle in all of the available ranges of motion, at all of the different angles and all of the different speeds. And almost none of us have ever been taught that, but it's available. And once you make it available to your brain has better mapping of your own body. So you end up moving better through life.
I
Yeah.
think something that would be, I feel like it'd be simple, but my brain, as far as simple goes, might be far fetched to society. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody like you in like a kindergarten class, because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, kids are so, their brain is so malleable, and
Yes.
they have like this weird ability to remember certain things, and then they just like that truth that you tell them as a child becomes a
Mm-hmm.
truth their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And how great would it be if we taught them nutrition and correct fitness as a child, like
Yeah.
in just kindergarten, and then
Yeah.
so from now on, that's their truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
that's what they believe from now on. Have you been able to experience, I guess, teaching kids things and how they perceive information compared to adults, or are you mainly just been adults?
Mostly adults. I have worked with a few kids. I did back in the day. I'm just going to completely blank on the program and it's going to drive me nuts. Oh, Girls on the Run. There we go. Got it. So back in the day, I participated in Girls on the Run and would teach them the nutrition piece about listening to your body and honoring your signals and what they are and what they mean and what to do when you feel them. And the secondary piece to that is unknitting them from emotions, right? So learning at a young age to not eat emotionally, to feel your feelings, not eat your feelings.
Mm,
And they were so receptive. These girls were, this age group was fourth to sixth graders, and they were like little sponges.
mm,
What's interesting is most kids, I would say fourth to sixth grade is right around the age where they start to get social cues and they start to really pick up on maybe parents or teachers or friends or society. Um, Earlier than that, if they're not on a cell phone already and on Instagram already, they are already intuitive.
mm.
They move their body in all these really goofy ways, right? Which the brain loves. Gets great mapping all the time. They eat when they're hungry. They stop when they're satisfied. They sleep when they're tired. They It's innate. But at some point, right, young people start looking outside of themselves to know what's right. What should I be doing? What should I be looking like? How should I be sitting and moving and whatever, right? So there's this consciousness that overrides self-awareness,
Mm.
right? A self-consciousness kind of starts to shape people into societal norms, and it can be family driven, it can be culture driven, and it can be, a whole bunch of things. Um, so yeah, that's a long way of saying sort of I've worked with kids. Mostly I work with adults.
Yeah.
Right? I've worked with actually a lot of college age kids as well. And they're very receptive because they're out on their own for the first time. They're recognizing that college is just as influential as any other part in life. And they want to step into their lives in a healthy way. So they're also like sponges. Older adults are much harder to work with. We
Yeah.
have all these preconceived notions and beliefs about ourselves. And so there's a lot more internal work that we do, a lot of emotional weight loss that happens to help them transform whatever it is they're wanting to transform.
When when I was doing personal training at a Gold's Gym, I would
Mm-hmm.
have people come up to me all the time and just ask me these random questions, and I
Yeah.
would just think to myself, I'm like, where did you get this from? Like who lied to you like this?
I know.
And the crazy thing is, it's mainly older people that would come to me about these things. I'm talking like
Mm-hmm.
40 plus, and none of the younger people, like, they would have questions, but I feel like younger people, when they ask questions, it's always um just like out of curiosity. Like
Mm-hmm.
they want to know the truth, like not really the truth, but so much like, give me the answer, like what is what am I supposed to be doing? But
Mm-hmm.
older people are more like, this is the truth, do you agree with this? Does that make sense?
Correct. It absolutely makes sense. I butt up against that a lot with my clients. And you're right. It's the 40 plus group. Um, Part of it, I think, is because they've accumulated so much information and a lot of it has been conflicting. So the way the brain works, in order to make themselves feel safe, they've adopted something that maybe worked once. And now they really want to make sure that works again because that's what they know,
Hmm.
right? It's in their known zone, it's in their comfort zone. So anything outside of that, right, can actually be perceived as a threat. So they're trying to, you know, seek a professional's opinion to agree with them so they can feel safe in this point of view that they're holding. Whereas younger adults and teenagers and stuff, they're still figuring it out,
Hmm.
right? They don't know it all. So they're willing to take in more things. And it's great if they can take all that in, distill it down, and check in with their innate knowing and say, okay, what's right for me? Because not everything is right for everybody, right? There's some principles that work for humanity, but then you take those principles and you need to create your own protocol. And the protocol changes from phase to phase of life, like what you need and how much you need changes based on, the season or the year or the life cycle.
Yeah, and that could be true for everything, right? With
Mm-hmm.
politics, religion. As we get older, we've, as you said, accumulated such a certain amount of knowledge, and we just we hold these truths to be self. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just accumulate these things.
I'm
Like, oh,
right.
yeah, yeah, this is it. So
Yeah.
when you are working with adults who have this preconceived notion of this is how things are supposed to be,
Mhm.
how do you work with that? Are you just like, nope, you're wrong, this is how you do it, or like, okay, how did you get that info, and
Yeah.
how can we change that? This is actually how you're supposed to do it. Like, how do you attack that?
Yeah. Um, in the relationship building, I actually have a map that I follow. It's called Recharge. And the letters each have what I consider a value or a skill that I want them to develop. And the first two letters, R and E, are just about them showing up, readiness and emerge. So once we're in our sessions, they've accomplished the first two. The very first thing I teach them to cultivate, and I demonstrate it by being very curious. That's the word, curious. Is I ask a lot of questions, and I ask them without judgment. I'm really just wanting to know, how did you come to that conclusion? Why? What does it feel like to hold that conclusion? Right? Is there dissonance? You want to be right, but you're not sure you're right because you've had experience that it's not working. So initially, I'm really gentle. I'm very curious. I give them a voice because a lot of times they either haven't had a voice or the voice they're listening to is really cruel. And so what they need is a lot of compassion that they're not giving themselves. So I'll give that to them. Now, once we kind of get into our relationship and I can be a little more playful and sarcastic with them, then sometimes I'll just say, nope, nope, you're wrong. And you know you're wrong, and I can call you out now. But you have to earn that right in a relationship to feel safe enough to call someone on their inner bully or on their, limiting belief. So yeah, the first thing we do is cultivate curiosity. I'll go through the letters real quick if you want.
Yeah, go.
So the word is recharge. And so I said readiness, emerge, curiosity, and then honesty. And honesty is one of the most important things that I can invite someone into, because if they're not able to be honest with themselves, we are not going to get anywhere. And that is one of the hardest things, is to really call yourself on your own BS and to really check the stories you're telling yourself, because that's how our beliefs are shaped. Things we say to ourselves over and over and over again that may or may not actually be true, right, become these like rigid beliefs that then make you feel stuck. So honesty is something we're constantly working on. And I deal with that a lot with reframing. I ask really good questions. I teach them to ask really good questions, just spinning it, taking a different, point of view. And through that, we build awareness. So the A is awareness. And those are our foundational principles: curiosity, honesty, awareness. And we spend a lot of time developing awareness around why they're doing what they're doing or not, why they have the goals they have, all of that stuff. So where are we? Recharge. Then we start building the R, which is respect. And fitness is one of the easiest places to describe how I view respect. There are days when you need to push your body, and there are days when you need to back off, and both look like respect. Right? So I think that's the easiest way I can explain it, is you have to be dialed in to what your system is saying, needing, etc., in conjunction with what your goals are and what life is like, how much sleep you got, all that stuff. Because if you need to push your body and you're afraid to, you might let yourself off the hook and you're not being honest. Hey, I actually can push today. But the flip is also true. If you need to back off and you've got some BS story in your head about your worth being tied to how hard you work, then you might set yourself up for an injury, or you might set yourself back because you weren't willing to respect the signals that day. Right? All right. And then we have, where are we? Recharge. G is gratitude. One of the most transformative skills and values you can hold, embody, and express. So we do a lot of work on gratitude. And then finally, we talk about energy and energy leadership. And that's one of my favorite pieces, because there's, at least the way I understand it, there's 7 different levels of energy, and we all have the ability to express them. And a lot of us get stuck in these low energy levels called victimhood and conflict. And we're either living in that with ourselves, or we're living in it with others, or both. And boy, does that make you feel like your life is miserable. So helping them first start taking responsibility, and then kind of get these higher level energies where they're at peace with themselves, with life, the way life is unfolding. It's a really cool journey.
Yeah, I mean, some of those things are probably things that people have never done in their life. You know what I mean? They just, a lot of people aren't, as you said, like honest with themselves of, how are you eating? Like, it's funny to see, or to ask somebody, how do you think you eat, or how many calories do you think you're eating? And then
Hmm.
when they actually have to write it down, they're like, oh,
Oh my God.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, like, that honesty, when it comes out, you're like, man, you feel, I guess, kind of guilty that you haven't been taking care of your body the way that you should have. And I'm one of those people. Like, I'll eat so clean for a while, and I'll have my
Mhm.
cheat meals or whatever, and
Mhm.
then that cheat meal comes to a cheat day, and then a couple 2 days, and I'm just like, yo, what am I doing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's it's great for people to just go through, all the acronyms of recharge and just be like, all right, this is where I'm at, and
Mhm.
this is where I want to be, and I've got to go through these steps to be able
Mhm.
to actually, be the person that I want to be, get that whole
Yeah.
body concept together.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very true. It's very much building a relationship with yourself, just like you would build a relationship with another person, right? When you first meet someone, you're curious about them, you want to know, you want honesty, you're creating awareness, you start to respect the person, and you have gratitude for them, right? And then you learn all their energy, their energy flows. And so there's like this known aspect. And that's what I'm taking people through is how well do you really know yourself, right? And how do you deal with yourself when you behave in a way that doesn't align with your values, right? Are you cruel? Are you beating yourself up? Or are you like, hey, this doesn't align with who I am? What's going on? Are you okay? Right? Am I not nourishing myself in a way that's driving me to eat these foods? It's making me feel like I'm being nourished, but I'm really not. Right. So my favorite question is um, not necessarily how are you eating, but why?
Hmm.
Why are you eating? Are you physically hungry? A
Yeah, yeah.
lot of times the answer is no. I'm bored, I'm anxious, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm lonely, right? And so we misunderstand what's needed, right? We're emotionally hungry, but food doesn't fill emotional needs,
Hmm. I,
right?
I
There's
know
other, yeah.
I know there's many situations where I've been in that situation of, like, either I've been so busy and didn't even
Mm,
realize that I hadn't eaten, and
yeah.
I'll be like, I do music, and I'll be working on music for hours, and then
Yeah.
it might be, I'm an early riser. I might start at like 7 or 6 on music, and then
Mhm.
it'll be
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, and
Whoa.
yeah, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't eat. And
Yeah.
then there's times where, I don't really have anything to do, and I'll eat, and then it won't be like a ton of food, just enough
Mhm.
to get me satisfied. And then
Mm.
like maybe just 2 hours will go by, and I'm like, I'm kind of hungry. I'm like, wait a minute, I just ate.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you catch yourself.
Yeah.
You're
So
like,
it means
what am I doing?
that mental part of it, as you were saying, just understanding, like, why am I eating right now? Am I eating because I haven't done anything and I just
Yeah,
bored and don't know what else to do, or am I eating because my body actually requires nutrition right now?
exactly. It's in the end, it's very freeing. In the beginning, it's really frustrating because because of the way that our brain and body is set up to work with each other. Um, you create a habit and then you get so good at the habit that you don't really need your brain to follow through as a habit,
Yeah.
right? So your body will just send these signals. It's used to getting food, it's used to getting whatever. Every time I feel bored, I'm used to grabbing whatever. Every time I feel sad or anxious, I'm used to putting whatever in my mouth. And these become like habits that you don't actually have to think about. So the process of undoing that really requires that you create some pattern interrupts and you create some awareness and you ask really good questions. And then you sit with the discomfort of not following through on the habit. And that's a physical discomfort, right? Your body's sending all the chemicals, hey, this is what we do now, right? When so and so gets mad at you, we go grab ice cream.
Mm.
And when you don't grab the ice cream, you've got all this stuff flooding your system saying, go get ice cream, go get ice cream. And you have to sit with it, right? But that's the process of breaking those patterns and rewiring your system towards something else. And with my clients, we'll do what's called a nourishing behaviors list. And ideally, it has nothing to do with food. And sounds like music is a nourishing behavior for you, but also needs a little bit of balance in there because you can go way off the deep end. But typically, what I say to people is, what are the nourishing behaviors that you either don't allow yourself to do, right? Because everything else should get done first. You love doing them, they light you up, or you lose track of time, or you feel better, right? So laying down, getting sunshine, going for a walk, reading, music, dancing, talking to a loved one, whatever it may be, those are nourishing behaviors that can actually feed the emotion in a healthy way, right? And then if you're hungry physically after that, go get something to eat, right? And if you're not, the practice is, if I'm not physically hungry, I don't need food, right? But like I just said a minute ago, it's a process because your brain and body have trained you to think you're hungry because of your behavior. So it's a pretty in-depth process to undo that. But once people do, freedom keeps coming. It's the word that it's like, oh my gosh, I'm free, right? Because what happens is people know when they're eating emotionally. They know when they're stress eating. We know it. We try to hide it from ourselves, but we know it.
Yeah.
And that's what creates all those inner head junk, right? And that inner head junk then feeds the behavior, right? Or other coping mechanisms. And then we get further and further away from ourselves because we're really not listening. We're afraid, I don't know if we're afraid, but we're just not listening to those little subtle cues inside that say, hey, that's not really what I need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a job where I work from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I'll try to eat a breakfast, or I would do like a protein shake, and then I'll try to eat like a snack, and then have lunch at around 11, and then when I come home from work, I would eat a snack or something before I go to the gym. Well, sometimes my work might get busy, and I'll have to eat a late lunch. Well, I've eaten a late lunch at like 2 instead of 11, and
Right.
then I come home, and then I'll get ready to eat my snack, and I'm like, hold on, I'm not hungry. I ate it too.
Yeah.
But I'm
But you're
just
just
so used to it.
patterned to, yeah, exactly.
That
Exactly.
it's such a weird thing that you have to catch yourself. If you don't catch yourself,
Yeah.
you'll just keep doing it. And like you were saying, with that pattern of, well, so and so made me sad, so that means it's ice cream time. That it's like,
Yeah.
nobody taught you that except yourself. You
Right.
created your own habit. So try. Oh, so and so's made me sad. Grilled chicken and broccoli.
Yeah. Or feel the sadness,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Dig into the sadness. What about this made me sad? Do I need to feel sad? Is this an appropriate response to what someone else did? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? Sometimes something happens and we make it about us, but it's not really,
Mm.
right? Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes there's actual direct assault, so to speak, right? And you feel the impact of it. But a lot of us are afraid to feel the feelings,
Mm.
right? It's another thing we're not taught, especially I think in our culture, right? I think men, don't cry, don't be a wuss, put on a brave face. And women, if they're too emotional, they're hysterical. So there needs to be a recalibration for all of us
Mm.
to say, like, feelings and emotions are healthy. They're a part of life. How we deal with them matters, right? Because if we don't deal with them, I think at least one of two things happens. We either take that energy and we push it out on someone else, right? Or we take that energy and we park it in our bodies.
Mm.
And both are really destructive
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah, it's something that I think is really sad to see amongst people who have been taking out their violence on other people,
Mhm.
and 9 times out of 10, it's usually somebody who had a past or a history. You'll see this with like school shootings or just
Mhm.
public shootings or something like that. It's like, oh, so and so, had a history of this, that, and the other. It's like,
Right.
oh, that makes sense.
It makes sense. It comes together. Yeah. They have their own deep pain that they don't know how to deal with, right? So they're choosing to take it out.
What are some ways that you've taught people on how to change that thinking of when they have a certain feeling? How do you, um, I guess, either changing your habit
Mhm.
or just like coping with that? As you said, men don't cry. You're a wussy if you cry, or women don't show your emotions because now you're a crazy person. Like
Right.
how do you deal with these? Or how do you help people deal with those types of emotions that they carry?
Yeah. Um, well, the first thing we do is just have a rational conversation about them, right? When they're feeling safe, when they're feeling centered in a session. And then if we're having a conversation and I can see emotions coming up, I simply try to create a safe space for them to sit still and feel it. So I'll ask questions like, at first I'll say, it's safe. Don't push it down, right? You are safe with me. You're safe in your body. It's okay to feel these. This is just a signal, right? That's all this is right now. This is just information. We don't need to judge this as good, bad, right, wrong, scary, not scary. Let's just let the information come up. So I'll have them what I call land in their body. So whatever we're doing, we sort of stop. I say all that I just said. Put your feet flat on the floor, hands on your thighs, close your eyes.
Hmm.
And where in your body do you feel what you're feeling? And a lot of times it's belly, chest, throat, shoulders, right? The energy is somewhere in here and it either feels like it's building or it feels like it's stuck,
Hmm.
right? So I'll have them breathe, I'll have them soften parts of their body, and I'll have them invite the energy up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And typically that will evoke either tears or heavy breathing or sobs or words. And would just encourage them to get that out. The second level of it is if they're really having a hard time, like letting it out just by sitting still, we'll move.
Hmm.
So I'll have them get up and I'll have them shake, right? Shake their body, shake in ways that feel really weird. They can turn their camera off if they want, but or if we're in person, I'd put on music to guide them through it. And usually, when you get the body moving, it really helps actually move stuff out. And then they'll sob. They'll
Hmm.
just absolutely sob. And it's incredibly freeing and relieving. And you can watch their body melt as that energy moves out of them. And then after it moves out, they get clarity. Then they have the words. Oh gosh, this is what I've been believing. This is what I've been telling myself. This is where this comes from. And then we can do our reframing around it, right? Or we can just leave it and say thank you.
Do you
Yeah.
feel like people struggle to give like themselves permission to do these things? It's like they feel like, oh, this isn't okay. But from what you were saying, it sounded like you have to kind of unlock that in their mind, because it's like they don't even know it's okay. They have to give themselves
Yes.
permission to do these things.
100%. And again, I think it goes back to either being taught, right? And maybe not verbally being taught, but maybe having it modeled by a parent or, some influential mentor in your life that modeled how to behave when emotions come up.
Hmm.
That could be subconsciously still driving you or controlling you. And then it also is coupled with what you say to yourself about emotions, right? So these two things, like you said, is a really good word, keep them locked in sort of paralysis. Um, and yeah, so I giving them permission is it's required. And sometimes they don't believe me. Sometimes it takes quite a few months for them to actually um, undo the language around them feeling feelings, right? Feeling ashamed of getting teary or whatever it may be, because of the conversation we're having or the work we're doing.
Yeah, one thing that you were talking about, just the movement, like
Mhm.
so I've I used to be in the Air Force, and
Oh, cool.
when I served I was a bomb loader. And
Oh,
loading bombs, like, all right, just do your job. But like there are things that make me nervous, and like some people are like, "Oh my God, that's what you did." I'm like, there are other things that make me way more nervous than that. And
yeah.
it's one of the things that I've begun to realize is if I can do something like an exercise or something like that, like push-ups is like my go-to. If I get
Yeah.
nervous about something, I'm just like,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
push-ups is like the most simplest thing, or like squats, but
Class. Exactly.
it just gets my body moving, and it's like it takes my mind away from the thing that I'm attempting to do.
Mhm.
And as you were saying, it's like that release of energy, like all that stress or whatever is caught up in this area. If I could
Yeah.
just do, however many push-ups or squats, it's like I just dispersed it everywhere, and I'm able to
Mhm.
just get it out.
Yeah.
So have you ever experienced or experienced where shown people to maybe do certain exercises, or um, maybe like some certain breathing activities or certain
Mhm.
phrases to get people to release that energy?
Yes. The answer is yes. Um, if they're comfortable shaking, I have them shake to music, like shaking, dancing, moving, whatever, because it's not structured. And most people will just start counting reps and they'll think about their form, and they're actually closing off the emotion. They're compartmentalizing it back away. Even though they're moving the energy out, they're not actually facing the thoughts that caused it,
Hmm.
right? Or the beliefs that triggered it. So yes, like moving your body in any way is going to be great for the physical energy, like the cortisol and the adrenaline that get released because of the thoughts you're having or the trigger that came up. Um, but if I can get them to move, or like you said, breathe, there are very specific breathing things that we'll do um, to get them to actually go inside and not avoid and not shut down and not close their eyes. Um, then they actually have a chance of healing and rewiring whatever that trigger or that belief is. And I like this method a lot. In fact, I have a 30-minute program that I do with some of my clients where they shake for anywhere from 6 to 12 minutes, depending on what they need. Yeah. And yeah. And it's with music. So it feels really like choreographed. They can get into the beat and things like that. And that's does different things in the brain. But then we go into very specific breathing patterns for the rest of the 30 minutes. And I take them through all these different breathing patterns. And at the very end, it's almost like Shavasana in yoga. At the very end, wrap them in a blanket and let them like relax into their system. So we're
Hmm.
getting this nervous system cycle to complete itself. And then we have a chance to journal or write or, complete the whole process. Which really gives them not just the knowing at the brain, but the gnosis at the body level.
Hmm.
So we're kind of tying these two things together to get the healing to happen, to get the brain to rewire, and and the next time that trigger comes up, they either have tools, right, to deal with it. 'Cause sometimes it takes a little while, or they recognize, oh wow, this because of this one experience, I don't need to have the same response. So,
Have you been able to experiment with pressure? That's something that I feel like a lot of people should experiment with, but by pressure I mean like a hug, or
Mhm.
like a really heavy blanket. I've seen on like an Amazon or Wayfair or stuff like that. They love advertising like a heavy blanket because people just like to feel something heavy. It makes them feel comfort, or just like a
Yeah.
hug or something like that. Have you ever
Yeah.
experienced something like that?
Yes. So the timing of touch is really important when someone's going through like reliving a trauma or reliving you know, so I'll typically won't touch unless they reach out for touch.
Hmm.
But when it's appropriate, yeah, a hand on a shoulder at the right time can anchor them into a safety. A hug at the right time, like I said, when they're ready for it or when they're reaching out for it, absolutely creates and encapsulates them in a safe space, right? And then yes, like with the breathing, the shaking and the breathing pattern that I do, we wrap them in a blanket at the end very specifically. A, because they're going to get cold laying there, but B, because the nervous system registers that as being swaddled,
Mm.
being safe.
Yeah, those things are, very small things that we probably do for comfort that we don't realize. Just like,
Mhm.
I remember I was having some back issues, and
Mm,
the doctor was telling me like, "Oh, be mindful of the way you sleep." And I didn't realize that most people love sleeping in the fetal position. It's just
yeah,
a baby thing to do, and
yeah,
even as adults, we still love it, and it's
yeah.
because that's our comfort zone. So those
Mhm.
like little small things that we do to want to feel comfort, that we might not even realize it, but we do it because it makes us feel better. It makes us feel warm, makes us feel good, and
Yeah.
I definitely think people should be more aware of those type things to help them get in that safe space and feel better in whatever activity that they're doing.
I totally agree. And that's what I teach is imagine so and so just pissed you off. And instead of going and getting the ice cream or the beer or the pizza or whatever it is, you go lay in the fetal position and wrap yourself in a blanket and you just offer yourself that comfort that you actually want,
Mm.
right? That actually sends a signal to your nervous system that you're safe, that you're warm, right? Just like expanding the possibilities for people that food or alcohol or whatever your coping mechanism is isn't the way to actually respond to the trigger that's coming up, right? That when your body's wanting comfort or safety, there are legit ways that your brain receives comfort and safety. And they're simple, like you said, these really simple things, but we don't think of them. It doesn't occur to us. And so part of my work is raising that awareness, piquing the curiosity. What else could I do here? What would be comforting? If food wasn't comforting, what would be? Right. And then having multiple options for that because you're not always going to want the same thing. Right. Sometimes you might want to take a hot shower or a hot bath. Other times you might want to wrap yourself in a blanket. Other times you might want a hug from someone, right? Or to pet your dog. So it's just making people aware that there are band-aids for bullet wounds and there are ways to take bullets out of the body and let it actually heal. I know it's kind of a crude,
Yeah.
uh, but you know what I mean? It's more effective if you can get the bullet out.
So, there are like two different ways that some people handle situations. There are deflecting, where they just like, I don't even want to think about it. And then there's acceptance, where you want to
Yeah.
face it head on. Do you have a teaching of a preference that you prefer one or the other, or do you just like to get to know the person and figure out which one would be best for them?
I am all about acceptance. Deflecting is how they got to see me in the first place, most likely.
That is true.
Yeah, been there, done that, didn't work. I'm still miserable. So yeah, acceptance. Eckhart Tolle talks about this, and I love the way that he puts it because there's sort of a progression, and I love progressions. So acceptance is I don't have to like what's happening. but I do need to accept what's happening because that's what's sane.
Mm.
If, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm not accepting the way things are, that's kind of insane
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's the way things are.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like the base level of like, okay, I don't like my body. I don't like my behaviors. This is what it is.
To me, that goes back to the honesty and
Mm-hmm.
gosh, what was the other thing I was going to say? Honesty and gosh, I forgot. But it's just being aware of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're accepting what's happening, and you want to, you know, actually attack it and do something about it.
Yeah. It's when we don't accept things the way they are, we create problems, we create stress,
Yeah.
period. Right? When you accept the way things are, then you actually open up the field of possibilities to, like you said, attack it or make a different decision or, you know, or just be okay with it for the moment. Right. So once acceptance is in place and you've got that practice down, then you can actually move into enjoyment. And enjoyment is no matter what's going on, I can enjoy my life, the sensations in my body, the experience, right? That there's meaning in everything. And that's kind of like a higher level of what I think of like spiritual, mental, emotional integration. And then the third level is enthusiasm, right? It's having enthusiasm for life, for the unfolding of things, for the direction of, you know, the way things are going, no matter what's going on. And that's like some super Jedi stuff there.
Respect was the other thing I was thinking.
Respect. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
When you
yeah.
the honesty and respecting yourself,
Respect. Mm-hmm.
because you
Mm-hmm.
know you could view it as disrespecting yourself if you aren't, you know, number one, being honest with yourself, and
Right.
but if you're just kind of just deflecting issues all the time,
Yeah,
you're not really respecting yourself. Like if you know, with your
totally.
spouse, if y'all got into an argument and you just didn't want to talk about it all the
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
you would feel disrespected from your spouse. So I feel like yeah, just accepting what's going on with you and being mindful of it. That's got to be a respect thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Some of the arguments that clients will come up with, you know, like I said, you don't have to like it. So they'll think, well, if I accept it, that means I'm okay with it or I like it. And I'm like, well, it means you're accepting what is, right? Like I said, you're not choosing insanity. You're choosing to be sane and aware of the way things are. You don't have to like it. But also they'll think that acceptance is apathy.
Mm,
So no, acceptance is actually the way to accelerate your growth, your change, your healing, whatever it is. It's the exact opposite of apathy. It's really hard to move forward in life if you can't accept where you're at and how you got there,
yeah.
right? Or the way things are.
There's a huge, I guess, misunderstanding between like some of those types of things. So when people, which like feelings in general, like a lot of people, they don't even understand their own feelings. So,
Totally.
um, I guess just to be self aware, is a huge thing. Um, so let's get into a little bit more of, I guess, just things that you feel like people need to be aware of, and
Mhm.
how they can accomplish these things based off of the things you do. I definitely want you to, you know, promote, you know, the things that you the services that you give to people. So
Okay.
what are some things that you offer that you're like, oh, people don't think about this. This is what I'm able to do, and how you can, I guess, accomplish those things through your services.
Yeah. Well, even without my services, everybody can start at the top of the hierarchy of how we function and look at their sleep.
Mm. Sleep is huge.
Everything, sleep is huge. Everything trickles down from there. Um, so I have something that I call my big five of healthcare. It's the things that I discovered over the years that I need to have in place in order to show up as the best version of myself and to have ongoing health and fitness and joy. And sleep is my number one. And most people, when they start to pay attention, oh, what are the things that I really need? They'll find that sleep is their number one as well. And that's hardwired for, very specific reasons. And then how it plays out from there really is dependent on individuals, but hydration and nourishment are really important. And nourishment's very personal, right? Why are you eating? How are you eating? What are you eating? Right? And what you're eating is what I consider like deep work. It's, if like, why are you eating is the 101 course, what are you eating is like the 301 course. Because you need to have a certain level of self-knowledge and relationship with yourself to then understand the nuances of how certain foods are making you feel. Right? And then you have the clarity and autonomy and respect to say, okay, this food no longer serves me. I need to wean off of it or cut it out or eat it less or find an organic source or a level up, the quality of it. And that's the work that people do. I also think that connection is one of those big five. And this is also really personal for people, but it's connection with yourself. So that relationship with yourself, connection with your source. So whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is, having yourself be tied to something bigger than you, it is really transformational. And then that I think helps you connect with others on a much richer, deeper level because at least I do, I realize how similar we all are, right? How connected we all are, how much we actually really need each other.
Yeah.
And how the paradox is how similar and how unique we all are. Like, it's so beautiful, right? And then movement. Our bodies are meant to move. They're made to move. And that's, we haven't talked a lot about it, but that's a big neural piece that I do is getting people to remap and move their body in all the ways that it's meant to move and watch how your system restores itself, right? Because it's getting the information it needs. Just like when you're eating the right foods, it's getting the nourishment it needs. Your body's super intelligent, right? It will create its own harmony, its own homeostasis. Your weight will normalize, your sleep will normalize, everything will like fall into place. You're like, how did I do this? Well, you were listening and you followed through. Yeah. Right. So those I think are some of the things that people can start examining for themselves. What is my sleep routine like? Is it consistent? Is it healthy? Right? How do I nourish myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Or do I? Right? How do I move my body? What am I hydrating myself with? Am I connecting on a deep level with myself, my source, with others? Right? Well, I think those are some of the ways.
Something that you mentioned earlier about, I guess the sequence of, how you eat and then why you're eating and then what you eat, the what being after those things. I think most people would find that, I guess just incorrect. Like most people would think like, oh, I need to know what I'm eating first. But it's funny because I was actually watching a YouTube video of a bodybuilder and he was talking about how he, what was it? Oh, he was like, yeah, I don't usually eat a lot of vegetables because they're just like fillers. And, and I was like, huh. And then when you said that, I was like, some people might watch that video and that's where their brain just shuts off. Like they're like, oh, I don't need to eat vegetables because they're fillers. So that's their why. There's why they're eating what they're eating, and then their what is later. Why I'm eating what I'm eating is because that's what he said, and he's a bodybuilder, and he's on YouTube, and he's famous. So that's why I eat what I eat. That's why I eat what I eat. It's after the why. So
exactly. It's a brilliant point, and that's another reason why the curiosity is so important. It really helps you pull the thread of all the influences that have either been really overt or really subtle. And people might not even realize, especially with social media, how influenced those, it's designed. It's designed to get us addicted to, right, exactly. They're called influencers for a reason. Exactly. Yeah. So if you can become the greatest influence in your own life, then you can listen to all of this external information, and some of it might be good nuggets to take in, and you try it out and it works or it doesn't work, and you just disregard it without a lot of drama, but you have the self expertise to make those decisions, to hear something and say, not for me, right? Or to hear something that's conflicting and say, that's conflicting, versus, oh my gosh, which one's right? I don't know. Oh, right? That's how a lot of people are. They're so confused by what's out there because everything's conflicting, that then they either feel paralyzed or they ping pong back and forth between things. And that's why they feel so disconnected in their bodies, and they feel like they're at dis-ease with themselves, or they're actually experiencing disease. Right?
Yeah, I try to be, I'm usually pretty skeptical of pretty much most things I see,
Yeah.
because I want to go do the science. Like I want to go try, what somebody is saying, just to see, like, oh man, did you see, What the Health?
I didn't see that one, but it's on my
Oh,
list. Yeah.
you
So
gotta
good.
watch it.
Okay.
So, I'm pretty sure this is the one that was about, the people who all went like vegan, and it cured like all their health issues and whatnot.
Oh, interesting.
These people were like, they were like pretty obese. And when I say
Okay.
pretty obese, they were really obese, but they went vegan, and then all their health issues went away. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, everybody, pause.
Pause.
These people were extremely overweight and weren't moving around at all. And now all of a sudden they're eating vegetables all the time. And now they feel better. They can move. That's just common sense. Like they weren't eating right in the first place, and now they're eating things that are good for them. It's not because they just went vegan,
Vegan.
because that's what
Exactly.
what the health was really about, was
Yeah.
pretty much trying to push people to be vegan. It was talking about how, the
Interesting.
FDA and, I think it was another organization, was like, it was the ADA, American Diabetes Association. It was talking about how, meats, like red meat, is really bad for you and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, a burger patty is bad for you when it's mixed with a white bun
Yeah.
and a beer and stuff like that. Like that's when those meats are bad for you, is what you're eating them with. But it's not particular meats. They were talking about how they're giving you cancer and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, whew.
Well, so to sort of echo what you're saying, when we get to the phase of what you're eating does matter. And what that really means is the quality of what you're eating. So I have had people go vegan and they've felt great for a few months, and then all of a sudden they tank.
Mm,
And I've had women who are like big meat eaters and they're thriving. So it's very personal. You have to pay attention to your body. You have to be willing to adapt from phase to phase, right? But the quality of the food that you're putting in your body actually matters. So you could have, let's just say, a grass-fed and finished burger, right, on an organic bun of some kind with organic cheese and organic fixings and all that stuff. And you could have a burger that doesn't have any of that. It's got genetically modified or items. You've had cattle that have been injected with hormones and steroids, all kinds of stuff. Your body is going to get a lot more burden. And it's going to have to do a lot more work to clear out all of the stuff that's been put into those animals and those plants, right? Pesticides and herbicides and all that stuff, versus something that's organic. And that's the conversation that I have with people. A burger, like, one of the things that I say to my clients is everything is permissible. That's one of the very first things we do. Nothing is taboo. Everything is permissible. Not everything is beneficial.
mm,
And it's up to you to decide what's beneficial for your body. And when you really start paying attention, you will notice that higher quality foods that have been cared for and raised in healthy ways, animal husbandry and farming practices that are in sync with nature, your body's like, thank you. I know what to do with this. It feels really good. Right. And it's like a non-issue to have a burger and a beer, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you're chronically putting low quality, almost like not real food, right? Synthetically and chemically manipulated foods into your body, it's incredibly stressful.
Mm,
And that's what people are experiencing. So it's, it's not about the label, the paleo, the vegan, the this, the that. It's really about the quality of the food that you're putting in, and that respect with your system, and plants are little packets of sunshine,
hmm.
literally. They have tons of vitamins and minerals in them. And those are the building blocks that everything in our body is made from. So no wonder if you put health, you put really high quality food in your body, you're going to get a high quality response.
That's exactly right. Um, all right, it's been a great time talking to you. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Give everybody like your socials or ways they can
Mhm.
contact you, websites, all that good stuff.
Sure. So my company is Whole Life Health. Most of my handles are Live Whole Life Health. So website is livewholelifehealth.com. Um, Instagram is Live Whole Life Health at Instagram, whatever it is. And then on Facebook right now, you can find me under Missi Bantner, and then that can lead you to my business page. So those are three ways that you can, follow me, get in contact with me. If you have questions, there's a connect with me on all of those. You can connect with me, and we can hop on a discovery call and see if um, I've got limited one-to-one coaching that I do, but I've got some really awesome group programming coming out in small groups, so that you can actually create that community of knowing each other while you get to know yourself, and that accountability, and like sister and brotherhood is so special and important for the journey that people go on. So if people are interested, in the way that I'm talking about this, and they're like, that sounds so much nicer than following another diet, and I really want to change my life, just reach out and we can have a chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Missy. This has been absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. It's been really fun to talk to you, Jackson. I appreciate the curiosity that you brought, and the lens that you have. So thanks for doing what you
Oh, you're welcome. All right.
do.
Thank for everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.